Ladies and gentlemen, as promised, we're pausing our regularly scheduled programming of aggressive consumerism to indulge in a little lore. So come, sit, have a cup of tea, and join us as we ponder the mysteries of the title Unholy Spirits Light Divine. At first glance, the phrase Unholy Spirits Light Divine may seem like little more than stylized word salad, a string of evocative terms chosen purely for their aesthetic and melodic value. However, when treated as a functional sentence, the syntax hints at something else entirely. To the astute reader, it may suggest that the unholy itself might act as a medium to ignite a sort of sacred illumination. For example, let's imagine it's 2 a.m. in a dilapidated underground passage that smells like wet concrete and failed urban planning. You feel a shift in the shadows. Suddenly, the air is thick with the distinct musky perfume of pestilence. A hand, uncomfortably cold and statistically impossible in strength, wraps around your throat. Fangs flash. You have just encountered a literal, undead, blood-drinking, supernatural predator that is out to harvest your blood. If you manage to survive the encounter, shout out the occasional clove of garlic tied to your belt, because it was the style at the times. It would be fair to assume that your belief in a safe, rational, materialistic world has just ended and your ontological shift towards an entirely different reality has begun. And this brings us to the punchline of Unholy Spirits Light Divine. The title suggests that the evil, the demonic, the monstrous, the thing that shouldn't exist according to your high school biology teacher, is neither dualistic, as in God versus Satan as equal rivals, or materialistic, as in evil is just bad luck or bad upbringing or whatever. The perspective found in Unholy Spirits Light Divine is one of Theological Monism. It suggests that if God is truly infinite and unlimited, nothing, not even a vampire, can exist outside his will. Therefore, unholy spirits are agents of God, the left hand of the Creator, as you will, used to shock the soul into spiritual awareness and divine revelations. This perspective is, of course, nothing new and has always been around in one form or another. So let us ponder harder by examining the musings of Pseudo-Dionysius the Areopagite, Jacob Boehme, and Rudolf Otto on the matter. Pseudo-Dionysius, also known as Dennis, is perhaps the most influential shadow in Western theology. His works, primarily the Divine Names, is where he tackles the nature of evil. For him, evil does not have its own independent existence. In the Divine Names, he argues that all existence is fundamentally good because it emanates from God. As such, he argues that evil is merely a parasite or a byproduct that has no substance on its own. As such, demons are not evil by nature. If they were naturally evil, they would be evil in themselves, which would mean God created an evil thing, which is an impossibility in his system. Demons and other unholy spirits are perceived as evil only because they have a deficiency in their ability to reflect the divine light. They still desire the good, such as power, existence, life itself, but they seek it through destructive means. So let us return to our 2 a.m. vampire. If viewed through the world of Pseudo-Dionysius, our vampire is not a rebel against God. He is an ontological, deficient being, a void trying to fill itself with your being. Just as cold is not a physical substance but merely the absence of heat, the vampire's evil is just a massive, terrifying void where God's grace should be. If God is the source of all, why are there such voids like the vampire? Pseudo-Dionysius suggests that God allows privation, the lack of good, so that the variety of the universe can exist. The vampire serves as a purpose in the divine economy. By being a terrifying void, the vampire forces the victim to recognize the value of the fullness, the good of God. Since the vampire's existence is sustained by God's will, its attack is a divine providence in disguise. It is the scourge that wakes the soul. To be haunted by the unholy is to be noticed by the divine. As he writes, evil is not in angels, even though the punishment they convey may seem evil to us. A spiritual successor to this line of thought was Jacob Boehme, a German cobbler and Christian mystic whose visions describe the universe as a dynamic struggle between light and dark forces. He's best known for his monistic theology, which posits that both the wrath and the love of God are necessary, unified components of the divine essence. Boehme starts with the Ungrund, the abyss, or the bottomless. This is God before he is God. It's an undifferentiated, terrifying free will that exists. To manifest himself as God, God must divide into opposites, i.e., God can only be perceived dualistically by human beings. You cannot have yes without no, light without dark, love without wrath. Boehme argues that the dark fire will, the foundation of strength, anger, and desire, and a love will, the foundation of beauty, peace, and expansion. In Mysterium Magnum, Boehme argues that what we call evil or Satan is actually just God's own no to his yes. This is where our vampire comes in. For Boehme, hell and demons were not remote geographical fixtures or external entities, but rather states of being where creatures, places, and objects are stuck in the dark fire of God without the light to cool it. In Boehme's system, the vampire is a being of pure desire. It is hungry because it is trapped in the first three qualities of God's nature: contraction, friction, and fire. The vampire is not outside of God. It is a manifestation of God's wrath, and it is what happens when the strength of God is separated from the love of God. Boehme believed that the dark world, as in Satan and his agents, serve a divine purpose. If you meet a vampire in that tunnel, Boehme would say, it is the dark fire of the universe reaching out to ignite your soul, for we live in a lukewarm middle world of doubt. The vampire shocks us out of our apathy. It forces the soul to flee towards the divine light with an intensity that a nice sermon never could. The power that makes the vampire's heart beat or not beat, and the power that makes the saint's heart glow is the same power. One is just the wrathful side of the same coin. And more recently, we have Rudolf Otto, which was a German theologian and scholar of comparative religion who sought to reclaim the irrational and terrifying aspects of the divine that modern rationalism had smoothed over. In his most influential work, The Idea of the Holy, he explores the encounter with the Numinous, a state of being characterized by shuddering awe before a mystery that is simultaneously overwhelming as it is irresistibly magnetic. Otto argues that the wrath of God in the Old Testament is not a moral anger, like a judge being mad at you because you broke the law, but a force. God's wrath is like electricity or a wild animal. It is dangerous to get close to. Under the system, a vampire would be a manifestation of this wrathful side of the Numinous. It is the night side of the divine. Encountering it would be a religious experience because it forces you to acknowledge a power that is completely outside of human control. Otto argues that we only recognize the divine because we have an innate capacity for it. The unholy spirits act as a tuning fork. When it vibrates, it wakes up the holy part of your own soul. You realize that you are a spiritual being because you are capable of feeling a spiritual terror. So in that dilapidated underground passage, the vampire's attack is not a mugging, it's a spiritual initiation. Its unholy presence strips away your materialistic ego and forces you to confront the sheer, terrifying depth of the universe. The unholy is just the holy encountered by someone who isn't ready for its intensity. So, ladies and gentlemen, heaven is proven by the hell that is trying to consume you. By terrifying you, unholy spirits provide the absolute validation of hope. They are creatures that unify reality by acting as the divine's own shadow. In the 2 a.m. dark of that dilapidated passage, the monster becomes the miracle. The unholy spirit is a witness, a guide, and a catalyst for the light divine. So, if your 2 a.m. walk home didn't provide quite enough shuddering palpitations for one night, feel free to dive deeper into these obscure esoteric blueprints of the soul. The best part, these authors have been dead long enough that their midlife crises and cosmic revelations are now entirely public domain. You can download their existential dread for the low price of absolutely nothing, saving you literal coins for the ferryman, or more realistically, that overpriced late-night kebab you're using to cope with your own ontological trauma. Grab these texts for your free reading pleasure at the links below. Just don't blame me if the next time you hear the floorboards creak, you start checking the room for Nosferatu instead of just calling the carpenter. So ladies and gentlemen, did we ponder or what? If you're currently looking over your shoulder for a Syrian monk or a 17th century German shoemaker, then my work here is done. But don't get too comfortable just yet. There is significantly more lore to come waiting for you in the shadows. Consider subscribing, consider listening to Unholy Spirits Light Divine on Bandcamp as the soundtrack for your next ontological trauma. For those who wish to go deeper into the void, consider joining our inner circle on Bandcamp. A $3 subscription ensures that the tea stays hot, the garlic stays fresh, and the lore continues to flow. It's the most direct way to support the art before the ferryman comes for his cut. May the volcano gods be with you, and have a nice day.